2. Good afternoon, everyone. I am going to give a few minutes for people to join this live, but welcome to the first day of my 3-day live event, What Every Woman with Chronic Illness Must Know. I am so excited to have this event. I haven't had an event in a while, and you all haven't seen me in a while, but I am glad to be here. And not only am I here, I came with a wonderful guest, and I am going to introduce my guest, but I would like to give it at least 30 seconds for some people to come in the room. I don't want to take away her shine. She's awesome. She's amazing. And I want people to know who she is. And she is joining forces with me, Coach Crenée, and we're going to give you some great information about chronic illness and crushing chronic illness and professional women living with and dealing with and struggling with chronic illness, and hopefully some really, really good tips on how to overcome. I am also here to promote my new ebook. It is called 5 Ways to Deal with Anxiety and Depression Due to Chronic Illness. I'm going to be dropping that link in the chat, and I will tell you where to go get your free copy of that ebook, and you certainly don't want to miss it. Again, this is a 3-day live event. It's going to be today, Wednesday, February 22nd, tomorrow on the 23rd, and Friday on the 24th. And you don't want to miss a day, because if you do, you're going to be mad. So, but you can always go back and look at the videos on my pages that are streaming. So now I am going to introduce my lovely guest as she is sitting there and waiting. Her name is Jasmine, and she is a pioneer from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. What? Who she loves fried chicken. See, right there, when she told me she loves fried chicken, we was friends already. She loves fried chicken and building communities with tools and resources to serve underserved founders with experience from Prairie View A&M University. Yes, we are HBCU family. Wall Street, and working in technology. She has grown her social media platform audience to 28,000 and counting, and all by stepping out on faith and using a growth mindset to pursue her goals. Her passion for connecting with others and her engineering background allows her to help entrepreneurs like me, business owners like me, and creatives get really clear, consistent, and confident on social media to achieve results. She is head dreamer in charge at Dreamers Destination, and she also hosts a talk show on social media surrounding drama-free Black love. You can show her love and support by following any one of her platforms. She is Jazz the Pretty Plug, at Jazz the Pretty Plug, everywhere on the internet. So meet Jasmine AKA the Pretty Plug, and she will be my guest host today. This day is going to be about getting to know me and who I am, and knowing just a little bit about my journey. The journey has been long for me. The journey has been a quarter of a century for me at this point. This year will make 25 years with my journey with chronic illness. And so it's a lot more that can ever be shared in 45 minutes or an hour. But we're going to scratch the surface a little bit and make this a little interesting. And I have my guest host, and we're just going to get started.
Well, thank you, Coach Crenée, for inviting me on your live and to be a part of your 3-day series. I will definitely say it has been a pleasure to watch you grow, to work with you over the last few months. And today we are just going to get started on your journey. I want to know your purpose. I want to know your why. I want to know how you started this, creating a platform for other women, and just getting down to the bottom of it. So, my first question to you, Miss Coach Crenée, is tell the people who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
All right. Well, who I am is the amazing Coach Crenée, aka Crenée Salone, aka Rick Salone's wife, Ricky's mom, Michael's mom, and Davis's mom. I have a lot of names, but today I'm simply Coach Crenée. So you ask me what I do. What I do is I help professional women who live with and suffer from chronic illness, any chronic illness, to have a better quality of life and, quite frankly, longevity in their career. There are a lot of professional women, whether you're single or married, we have to work. Unless you're rich, unless you've won the lottery, unless you've come from money, we have to work and we have to be top performing, particularly women. We There's a wage gap between men and women. We always have to work harder for what we have, and we have to show up. And the one thing about having a chronic illness is that they call it an invisible disability because it can disable you sometimes and it can prevent you from showing up at all, or it can prevent you from showing up the way you really want to show up. So that is what I do. And my why, I mean, among other things, I do 10 other things, but we're here to talk about that. But my why is because, again, I talked about 25 years ago when I was really young, and I don't mind sharing my age. Y'all could put that math together if y'all want to. But when I was about 23 years old and I was finishing graduate school, I became really, really sick. And nobody knew why. In fact, I was working. I was working on a graduate internship I had taken the summer. I went to Florida A&M University in Tallahassee, but I am from Chicago, my hometown, Chicago, Illinois. And I had taken an internship in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is only about 2 hours away from Chicago. So I was really close to home that summer. So I left Florida. And then I went to Milwaukee, Wisconsin for this internship. And I only had one semester left or three classes. I had to go back and finish, and I was supposed to graduate in the fall of 98. But while I was on that internship, I became really, really sick. I had started to become sick prior to going on the internship, but it was only until I was diagnosed and everything happened that I was able to look backwards and try to pinpoint when it started. So it started probably about 4 months or so prior to me leaving in the month of May to go on that internship. And then I got progressively worse and worse. And I actually had to leave that internship. I went home to Chicago with my parents, checked myself into the hospital, and I didn't come out until 33 days later. So that is my why. And for the past 25 years, I have spent my time, a significant portion of my time, my career. I was single. It was just me, which meant that if I didn't work, I didn't eat. And then I did get married and have children and all that good stuff. And managing a chronic illness and working becomes different. It looks a lot different when you have a lot of other things to juggle. So I'll just pause there and let that sit with you and with the audience.
You know something? When you said you went into the hospital and you didn't come back until
Yeah.
33 days later, I'm like, ooh, imagine maybe you think you got a cold, or maybe you think you just it's just something not right, and it turns out that you have a whole chronic illness there.
Mhm.
And my next question is, when you were first diagnosed, how did you cope with the news and begin to rebuild your life? Like, what happened after you found out that you did have a chronic illness?
Well, I will tell you and anybody else that denial is a real place. And I was in that place for a variety of reasons. Number one, I didn't understand. I almost don't want to say that I didn't take it seriously, but I really didn't. The reason why I was so sick was because I was dealing with something that I didn't know I had. But once you know you have it, you know how to treat it and get better. So my mindset was, okay, now that we know, can we just get on with this? Can I just move on, with my life? Because I was so sick because I didn't know, right? And that's with anything. Even when you have a cold or a virus or a flu, or if you're a diabetic, you might find yourself being sick and you're like, what is going on with me? And then you go to the doctor and they tell you what's wrong. And then, you move on. With me, it took them, of the 33 days I was in the hospital, let's just make it, 5 weeks. For 4 of those 5 weeks, they couldn't diagnose me. I was in that hospital and I was really, really sick. And I had been on the critical care unit for two of those nearly 5 weeks. And they had no idea what was wrong with me. In fact, they wouldn't even give me any medication for fear of misdiagnosing me or having the medicine somehow mess with, what they need to know about my blood work. So about a week before I got diagnosed, I was told that I had systemic lupus. I knew exactly what systemic lupus was. I was not ignorant to that. In fact, I at that point I had worked for a pharmaceutical company, so I knew about all the drugs that they were giving me, and I knew what it was about. And I felt because I was so educated and I knew all these things. Okay, now can you just patch me up and can I go back to school in August? I mean, I was in denial such that I really thought that there was a possibility that I could go back to school in the fall semester. And I actually heard my doctor say to my parents, like, does she not know like what's really going on here? And that her body really has to heal. I had had two heart related surgeries, I had a collapsed lung. And I'm just like, I got to go back to school. I have to finish. And when can I go back? Can I miss the first 3 weeks of school? And they were like, ma'am, miss, they were calling me miss back then. They call me ma'am now. But when I was 23, I was miss. They were like, miss, you need to go home and sit down for about 4 months. And you don't need to be thinking about going back to nobody's school until maybe January, maybe the spring semester. So I was in denial. And that is a place that a lot of people land. And what I teach my clients is that I have a methodology that I call RAD. It's called Realization, Acceptance, and Disruption. And my clients come to me in all stages. They could be in the realization stage, they could be in the acceptance stage, or disruption. And I was kind of, a little bit I was definitely in the realization stage because I was in denial. It's almost like it's a loss for words. Um, I don't think that anything is really wrong with me. It was shocking. I had to navigate through the shock. I had to navigate through the denial. And that's where I was when I first found out.
And who wouldn't be? Even at that young age, you're like, oh, I just had a lung surgery. Like, I'm trying to be back outside. I'm trying to go party. Like,
Right.
you're not thinking that this is something that's going to stop you for the rest of your life or hinder you. You're just like, okay, I went to the doctor. They figured it out. Let me take some medicine. I'm about to start my next phase of life.
Exactly.
Just like, no, you
Mhm.
were diagnosed with something that most people, once they have it, they can think their life is over.
Right.
But not you, Coach Crenée, not you. You said, I am going to take this by the ropes. So I want to know, like, what was that pivotal moment where you said, you know what? I have this chronic illness, but this chronic illness doesn't have me. As you
Right.
started to navigate towards your career, tell me how you kind of pivoted to the next step.
Sure. Well, I think that I have naturally had that mindset like, look, I want to live. The piece that I was missing is that, again, being so young, and I tell people all the time, youth can kill you. Um, Thinking that you're invincible can get you in a lot of trouble. Um, I had limitations that I had to find out the hard way that I had. I walked away from that experience, even at 23, thinking that there were some things that I didn't have to do different or that I could do the same. And it just wasn't the case. And it took time. It took time for me to figure that out. Because if you think about my life prior to being diagnosed, during the diagnosis, and shortly thereafter, I was still a student. I was still very much a student. I wasn't living like the for real grown up life, where you got overhead and mortgages and car notes and a job that you have to go to every day, from 8 to 5. And a heck of a job at that, some serious responsibility. And my I had to transition like anyone else does with or without a chronic illness. I had to transition out of a student life into a real grown-up life. And I did. I got the job. I bought the house. I had a mortgage. I had a car note, and I had to go to this job every day. So I had to learn. It was kind of like learn as you go. I don't get to take a nap at 2 o'clock in the afternoon because I don't have class until 4, or I could sleep in. Being a student, that wasn't my life anymore. So I had to figure it out. And one of the major things with most chronic illnesses, particularly mine in lupus, it's fatigue. I don't understand how I'm 24 years old and I move like I'm 64 years old. Or you have some 64 years old who move better and faster than you. Fatigue is not being tired. Fatigue is literally when your brain tells your body to do something and your body doesn't respond. You are moving in slow motion. It is like walking through quicksand with bricks on your back. That is what fatigue is. Fatigue is not, well, I just didn't get enough sleep last night, or I've been running all day and I'm tired. I didn't understand what that was, and other people would notice as well. Other people would point it out and notice for me. So on that journey, particularly as a single woman, I was single. It was just me. I had to get up and I had to go to this job and I had to perform, but I had to have ways of caring for myself that changed, and it changed big time for me.
And I love how you said, you had to begin navigating being an adult and you had to
Mhm.
figure it out. And, some of the programs and some of the things that you've created is to help other women not have to figure it out, but to give them the blueprint to know, hey, are you in the R stage? Are you in the A stage? Are you in the D stage? Which stage are you in? Because that really does matter. And I love how you talked about being fatigued. A lot of people talk about, I'm just tired or I didn't get enough sleep. It's just like, no, if you got fatigue, your brain is telling you something and
Right.
it's stopping you from being able to function at your highest capacity. So that's amazing that, you were still able to go to work even without the tools and the resources that you have created now for others. Um, how did you have to change your lifestyle? Did you have to eat differently? Did you have to take medications? Like, how did you have to navigate being in your career with these adult responsibilities while also having this chronic illness? Like, what changed in your life?
Oh, the biggest thing is that change was just the amount of rest and the amount of sleep that I had to get. So sometimes while people my age, 25, 26-year-olds were out on Friday nights partying, that wasn't me. They're inviting me to events that start at 9, and I'm telling them I don't go to things that start at 9. I leave places at 9 o'clock. Yes, I did have to take medicine. I'm still on medicine, and I'm not, likely, I will be medicated potentially for the rest of my life. I can tell you that what I have learned over the years, that eating differently definitely has reversed certain things that used to happen to me with the lupus that no longer happens with me. So I do believe in the power of what you put in your body. We have to put medicine in our body to make it better, and food can also be medicine. But I had to basically just reprioritize my life. Even as a young mid 20s, late 20s single person, I really had to reprioritize some things. And reprioritizing meant that I couldn't always do certain things that everybody did. I traveled a lot for work, and I would have to come home and crash for a couple days or a day or two. I couldn't bounce back. And again, go to that barbecue that I was invited to, or go to that baby shower that I was invited to. I had to find ways to regain my strength. I had to find ways to regain how, because I had to, my number one job is to go to work. I have to go to that job and I have to pay this mortgage that I've gotten and all of these adult situations that I have created. That was job number one for me. And sometimes, recreating and doing things that a person my age would do, I just couldn't do. I learned the hard way because I love to vacation. And even when I was a single woman, I would take a fabulous vacation by myself every year, by myself. And every time I would come back, it seems like I would get sick. I would be so sick. But one of the things, particularly with having lupus, is that the sun is not my friend. It is something about the sun, that triggers cells. And just really quickly, because I didn't start out with this, for those of you all who don't know, lupus is very much a chronic illness, but it is considered an autoimmune disease. And the word auto basically means that your immune system kind of does what it's supposed to do, but in a bad way. So your immune system is a weapon. It is literally a weapon. Our immune system exists to fight and get rid of anything that is foreign in our body. So our immune system is supposed to fight viruses. If you spike a fever, your body is fighting something. It is doing what it's supposed to do. You are supposed to fight bacteria that is inside of your body. That is what and if anything is foreign inside your body, your immune system will reject it. And that is how our immune system is designed. It's designed to protect us. But when you have something that is autoimmune, that means that your own immune system attacks itself. It sees you, it sees me, it sees my healthy tissues and organs as foreign for some reason. For some reason, there's a glitch in the immune system such that it could attack my kidneys, it could attack my heart, it could attack my lungs, things that belong to me, things that are supposed to be there, things that don't have any virus or bacteria. And that's what it does, and that's what autoimmune does. And there are a lot of autoimmune diseases. I'm sure you guys have heard of maybe sarcoidosis, scleroderma. There are a multitude of autoimmune diseases, and lupus is one of them. And for me, it attacked my lungs and it attacked my heart, and that's why I ended up in the hospital for as long as I did. But just to give that bit of education, because I skipped over that piece, but I did. I had to change my life and find ways to reprioritize so that my body was getting the rest that it needed. But when I would come back from vacation, I would, and the doctors told me, they told me from the beginning, look, when you go on vacation and go out into the sun, you have to have sunscreen. You need to have on a hat. You need to have on umbrella, and you just basically you need to stay out the sun because the sun is not your friend. It causes some type of reaction within the cells that is going to trigger your lupus. I just completely ignored that. I just was like, okay, yeah, whatever. I've lived in Florida for the past 7 years. I've never put on sunscreen in my life. I'm not wearing no sun hat. Are you kidding me? Just the whole denial part until I learned the hard way. Every time I went on vacation or went out for a weekend and I didn't do the things those doctors told me to do, I would come back sicker, which meant that I had to take off work when I just came back from vacation. So how I'm gonna be gone for 5 days, on vacation, plus 2 weekends, a weekend on either end of those 5 days, and then I come back and have to take 2, 3 days off work because I'm sick and I'm sick for real. And it took me some years. I mean, really, it took me some years for that to really sink into my head and seek understanding about why that is. And now I don't go nowhere without a hat. I have sunscreen in my moisturizer. I have sunscreen in my makeup. I'm a hat wearer for fashion, but in the summertime, I'm always trying to get under a shade tree. And those are the things that I had to navigate and kind of learn the hard way.
I think what was so important about what you said is like you had to sacrifice. And a lot of times when someone has a chronic illness, some people would be like, ain't nothing wrong with you. You can come out to the barbecue. You can come out and party. And you
Mhm.
just like, no, like I really can't. Like I don't feel good. And it's just like because it's, I guess, what we would consider invisible. You can't see lupus on you. You can't see it. Maybe you have the butterflies, but you can't see when your body is attacking itself. Only you can feel it. And a lot
Correct.
of times people do feel that, people have, they discredit how they feel, or they're not able to be 100%, correct even on their job. When you were interviewing Coach Crenée, did you have to disclose that you had it? How did you navigate even disclosing that you had an illness?
No, well, here's what I would say about interviewing, just period. That is definitely nothing that you would want to disclose during an interview. And it is because I'm just going to go there. Anti discrimination laws exist, right? There is a human tendency to discriminate in a number of different ways. And we react negatively to people who are different from us and things that we don't understand. And often, not all the time, often it is unconscious. And chronic illnesses could have both of those characteristics. So, an interview is not the place to discuss your health issues to your potential employers. We use the law to provide victims of discrimination so that it's a tool to combat discrimination. But the presence of laws against particular kinds of discrimination doesn't eliminate that discrimination altogether. So an interview is not a place to discuss your health issues or to discuss if you do have something chronic, how that affects you. And that's one of the biggest things about having a chronic illness because you really don't want to be treated any differently, right? And you don't want to start out that way of giving anyone any ammunition to treat you differently. Now, if you are interviewing or if you are in the process of being onboarded for a new job, the companies now they give you the opportunity to disclose. And not only do they give you the opportunity to disclose at the point of hiring, they actually most companies have an annual they have an annual survey where you can go back and update everything because maybe when I started, I didn't have a chronic illness, but maybe 3 years later, I found out I had one. And so you have to they give you an opportunity to update your status. And you don't have to disclose. You can say, yes, I do have a invisible illness. And I've seen it. They probably have a list of 20 of what they call disabilities, right? Whether they are visible or invisible and you can say, yes, I'm going to disclose, and this is what I have, or no, I don't have a disability, or I choose not to disclose. Those are your options. And when you're further along in the hiring process, you will have an opportunity to disclose that and possibly discuss it with your management or HR only if you feel comfortable or only when you feel comfortable. But this is definitely not a topic of discussion during an interview.
That's good to know. And can you just tell the people that even though you've had a chronic illness for 25 years, you have still been able to climb the corporate ladder? Can you tell them all the many roles that you've had and all the corporations that you've been a part of?
Well, look, I'm looking to provide solutions to professional women who have chronic illnesses. But yes, I was able to navigate my way through several Fortune 500 companies. I've worked for General Electric. I've worked in the pharmaceutical industry for Eli Lilly and Company. I've worked for what used to be the Andrew Jergens Company, Cal Brands Company, and it wasn't easy. Again, it's just not easy. I can add many things to my list. I'm Black, I'm a woman, and I have an invisible chronic illness. And none of that is easy when you are trying to establish yourself, prove that you are worthy, prove, that you are smart enough and good enough to take on more responsibility. Again, I traveled constantly when I was working for my very first company, they sent me around the world. I worked for a pharmaceutical company and we had clinical research organizations all over the world. And when I worked for the consumer packaged good company, Cal Brands Company, I went to go live in Toronto for 2 years and I traveled constantly with them as well. So doing a lot of traveling takes a toll on your body. And again, I had to find ways to navigate that, to restore myself. And oftentimes, when the company does send you out on a trip, you want to stay the weekend because you want to have your own experience. You're already there. And I did that a lot, but I would pay for it when I came back. And so for the next few weekends, I'd have to refuel myself. Or sometimes I did take a vacation day at the end of my travel. And I had to spread my vacation days really thin, doing just that, having days so that I could recharge myself.
Well, come on. I'm giving you your flowers right now. Just being so proud of you and not letting that stop you, especially from traveling the world. Like maybe there's another woman out here that's like, oh, I was recently diagnosed with a chronic illness. I can't travel. I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything. It's just like, no, you can. May have some limitations. You may have to sit out for the next couple weekends when you go, but you
Right.
can do it. Um, I want to now like let's switch topics. Let's get down to um, the things that we all want, which is yes, we're gonna work hard and we're gonna play hard, but we don't want to spend the rest of our life by ourselves achieving our dreams, right?
Mhm.
So, Crenée, tell us what type of goals did you have on starting a family and also, meeting the love of your life? Just take us back there.
Oh boy, so that would require some hours and some drinks, but since we don't have hours and since we don't have drinks, I'll give you the short version. But yeah, I did. I've known my husband. I've been married almost 15 years. We've been in relationship for 17 years, and I've known him for 30 years. So, he was not someone that I had just met. We were two people who reconnected. My husband was widowed. He was married, and his first wife passed away very suddenly, 2 weeks after giving birth to their second son. So when she died, she left him with a 3-year old, and my son Ricky was almost 4, and Michael was literally 2 weeks old, a 2-week old baby. So we were a couple who kind of we reconnected. It was kind of some years had gone by, and after his wife passed away, we reconnected. So when we decided to date, we did it long distance. I was living in Toronto, Canada, so that was a lot. He had 2 small children. In fact, he had 2 car seats in the back, and, I would travel a lot to come here to Ohio so that we could finish do the whole dating process and, understand what I would be walking into to come alongside to help him raise these 2 small children. It made no sense for us to date in a vacuum or for him to come to me, with children in tow. That made no sense. So, I came here every other weekend. We had to have a plan. Dating long distance takes a lot anyway, but given that the stakes were really high, with the 2 children, we had to really sit down and make a plan and be serious about it. But fast forward, when we did actually get married, obviously I didn't just get married. I got married and I became a full-time mom, not a stepmom, not a weekend mom, not a part-time mom, not a holiday mom. I became a full-time mom to 2 small, beautiful, children. And so that brought its challenges, with my health because, I got married in 2008. And so I don't know if you remember what was going on with 2008, but it was a lot. It was a lot going on with 2008 with the financial crisis. We were electing a black president. I had gotten married. I had left one job and came to another. I was blessed enough to be gainfully employed when people were losing their jobs left and right. And not only was I gainfully employed, I got another job. During probably definitely the most messiest financial crisis in my lifetime. And at that point, 15 years ago, I had not lived or worked long enough to experience the economic cycle of that magnitude. So it was a lot going on, planning a wedding, having a wedding, getting married, moving out of my house into an apartment, part-time, and then moving out of that apartment into my husband's house, and then moving out of his house into our home. So we had his house, my house, and our house. So it was a lot of moving parts. It was a lot going on. I had started a new job, which meant when you start a new job, there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of energy that has to be put toward that because I'm starting over again, right? And having to prove myself and put in those long hours, understand my role, come home to these two children, right? And then if life wasn't interesting enough, 7 months later I was pregnant. so so my life was getting real fun. It was getting very interesting. So it was a lot going on, but having a spouse and having that partnership definitely helps a lot. Prior to us getting married, that was something we had talked about. In fact, we had to talk about that before we even said we go together. My husband had been through something incredibly traumatic, and for all intents and purposes, he lost his wife, and she was healthy. And here you are wanting to enter into something, and I'm telling you that I'm not healthy all the times. And while I'm all cute and 31 at this point, I don't know what this gonna look like in 10 years or 15 years. Hello. I don't know what this is gonna look like, but this is what you need to know. And so we had to have that conversation. Forget about getting engaged or getting married. We had to have that conversation before we even said we go together. He had to know and understand and ask some questions and kind of see how that worked out for him while we were dating.
And he had to take a leap of faith to know that nothing would happen to you, at least in the very early stages of your marriage. And you had to take a leap of faith that said,
Mhm.
you know what, when I do get married, I'm going to be able to have some kids because I know you said that you did want one, that you did want, a baby of
Yeah.
your own. And so it's just like both of y'all had to come together and say, we're going to trust God in this. We're going to trust that we will make it. And I don't know how you balance becoming a mom, then getting pregnant, and then y'all having houses and jobs. Like, I'm pretty sure your maintenance plan on you managing your chronic illness was at a 10. Could you describe, like, did you have any flare ups? Did you get overstressed? Like, any moments there where you were like, this too much?
Oh, I did. I did. There were several moments, and there was even a moment where, again, we were in between houses. I had I moved about an hour from where I was living. I was living in Cincinnati, and I moved an hour north to Dayton, and I put a tenant in my house because it was 2008. When nothing moving, with these houses. That was part of the problem. Um, we knew we could sell his house, but we had our house over here. And what was happening, a funny story that was happening with our house was that we were having it renovated. And it was taking a lot longer than we had intended, and it was taking a lot longer than we planned. And what was happening to me, really unbeknownst to me, because again, I'm moving into uncharted territory, right? With children and a spouse. And I had never been married before. I had never lived with a man before. And now I'm living with this guy and these two little boys. And even when I was single, when I used to be able to walk around with no clothes on and do whatever I want just because I'm single, I can't even do that because we have these two beautiful little boys. But the one thing that was interesting is that I had a tough time sleeping. I couldn't sleep. A lot. My husband has different sleep patterns, and he snores, I snore now, and I just wasn't used to that. But the crazy thing about that is that because we were transitioning and because we were moving, there was no furniture in the house. So it wasn't like I could even go sleep on the couch. So the baby had a bed in his room. He had his baby bed. The My oldest son had a bed in his room. And then we had our bed, but the house was empty because we were in the process of moving and we either gave away and sold all the other furniture. So I was I was sleep deprived. And I didn't understand that. It's not something that you know is happening to you until you literally start to kind of crack up a little bit. I was always on edge, and I was literally running on fumes, and I wasn't sleeping for a variety of reasons, not just, the sleep situation at nighttime, but things were just stressful overall, managing, renovating the house, worried about if we were going to sell his house, and just the whole process of moving, being upset because, our contractor is taking, twice as long to get this done. But I remember one night, and this is the story that I tell of how we moved into our house. One night, I just couldn't take it anymore. I was like, you know what? I got a whole nother house about 3 miles away with a bed in it and some furniture. I'm about to go to that house. And I left, and my husband came a few hours with the boys right behind me. I had them put together the bed in our bedroom. He worked all night to put together the bed in their bedroom. But leading into my next day topic, I'm going to be talking tomorrow with a married couple who has, and the wife has a chronic illness, and we're going to be talking about, some of those struggles, and particularly sleep. One thing that I hit upon really hard in my book, Five Ways to Deal with Anxiety and Depression Due to Chronic Illness, is sleep. Because quite honestly, people just don't understand how critical and serious sleep is to your overall health. And this is whether you have a chronic illness or not. It don't matter. It doesn't matter whether you have a chronic illness or not. Not getting the proper sleep can definitely lead to health issues, and even death. So I'll set that up a little later as we wrap that up. But I, again, starting a new job and really needing to be on point, and also starting a new life with two small children and needing to be on point. I was burning the candle at both ends, and it caused some flare ups. It caused me to have to work from home, and when I didn't necessarily know if that was okay, if it was okay. My manager was very, sympathetic just to my overall situation of transition, but there were some things that I was very unsure about and I was very insecure about. And I still hadn't reached the point where I was talking to people and or disclosing my illness. And we fast forwarded 10 years since my diagnosis.
You are very private or a very private person. Um, so how one, I commend you. If nobody else gets anything from her story, she went from no kids to
And the
three
dog.
kids
It was
and
me
a
and the
dog.
dog. I had the dog though. My dog took care of me and I took care of her.
Yes. So she went from a dog to a whole family, being a wife, full of responsibilities, and also having to manage herself, which I'm pretty sure, you're probably queen of self-care. And I can be everything to everybody once I'm somebody to myself. And I think the next question that I really wanted to ask you is, how did you go from I didn't tell nobody about my chronic illness for 10 years to now you're building a platform and you're helping other women? Like, who told you to do that? Like, what made you step out on faith and just say, I'm ready to tell people and help people with their chronic illness? I got something to share.
Well, I will tell you, for lack of a better term, I had a coach. She was in the form of a mentor. It was a mentor who really got in my face about it. I mean, she just could not believe that this was something that I wasn't sharing. If for no other reason, forget about the platform, forget about Coach Crenée, forget about what I'm doing with my business. If for no other reason, to give me peace and to reduce my own personal stress and my own work stress, you have to talk about these things because it causes more um angst and stress to hide things and to not share and to not be upfront. And there are things in place, when you've gotten to the point in your career or at a specific place or at a specific job where you have proven yourself, and they know that they can count on you, and you're a good employee and all those things, there is a safe space, and there should be a safe space where you should be able to share, with your leadership or your management, or at the very least with HR. What you share and how much you share is completely up to you. But she really, really challenged me, like, what are you doing? What are you thinking about? Do you not understand that this is causing you more stress, because you haven't told? And I was leading a project that had to do with health, and every month there's something like, the month of May is lupus awareness month, along with a lot of other things as well. Or the month of October is breast cancer awareness month. And I was leading one of those work efforts, and she just was outdone with me, and she was just like, "You know what? You need to open your mouth and you need to say something, if not only to set yourself free." So first, I had to start with setting me free, right? And really taking a step back and looking across all that I had achieved and all that I had accomplished, and still the work that I had ahead of me. Because when I met this mentor, I was pregnant, and I was moving even slower than ever. And I was getting ready to have like a third one. I went from 0 to 100 in what, 13 months. So yeah, it was that I had a mentor who encouraged me, to set myself free. And so once I set myself free of that and understood that I needed to talk about this, then it still took me a while, to understand, you know what? While you've set yourself free, you need to be setting other people free as well. Because I don't hear, as I've done my research about this business and kind of the direction that I wanted it to go, I don't hear a lot of people talking specifically about, chronic illnesses and invisible disabilities, and how we can remain employed. I am, a middle-aged woman, and I am not rich, and I don't come from money. And so I am earning a living, like the great majority of people. And we want longevity in our career. And not only that, we want to succeed, we want to perform, and we want to do all those things. We want to be able to enjoy our families, and we want to be able to travel. And I knew that I needed to package up what the things that I know and the things that I've learned, and understand that everybody's chronic illness is different. Everybody might not look like me, and trust me, I don't look like this all the time and every day. And people with invisible disabilities, we're real good at not looking like how we feel, because we have to press, and we make it work. And we you know I target women who know, you already have to know that you want to move forward. I encourage people all the time. I'm in therapy. When you have struggles and challenges, therapy is to help you work that out. Coaches are to help you move forward. If you already know, we are always supposed to be working on ourselves, and unraveling our pain, and doing all of those things like maintenance and like a tune up. But when you want to achieve results and have a better quality of life, and understand how to hack your life, and not make some of the mistakes that I made, and get results in confidence. And that's what I'm here for, to boost confidence, improve your work performance, to build effective communication skills, and how you even talk about this. And so it's just it's full development. And not only do I do it personally, in group sessions or one-on-one sessions, but I'm also, reaching out into the consulting world, because I would love to get into companies. How my family experienced me and how people experience you on the job can be completely different, because we have to show up differently. And people need to have education, in that way.
I'm just so proud of you. I have been witnessing her for the last few months, just really understand her audience and really understand like what is it that they need. And I think one of the fun facts about your business is like people really scored high on, I look good, but I don't feel good,
Mhm.
or I'm hiding, my illness to people around me, or people don't believe me when I say I don't feel good.
Yep.
And I think that, that is why you're a solution. That's why you're an answer to this space and to this problem. But I would love for you to tell me, or as we wrap up, because, it's almost that time, what would you tell someone who is struggling to believe that they can have the life that they love and deserve, especially after having a chronic illness?
Right. Well, what I would tell them is you have to believe it. Because if you don't believe that you can have the life, then you won't have it. You won't. You have to believe it and you have to speak it. And you also have to take action. And part of taking action is asking for help. And people with women, just women in general, and people with chronic illness sometimes often have a problem asking for help. And you have to ask for help. And you also have to invest in yourself. We always talk about, self care, but what does that look like? Self care can look very, very different for different people. Self care is not always about getting a pedicure, or always about getting a massage, or, it's not always about taking a nap. Sometimes self care means investing in yourself so that you can get results that will take you to whatever your next level is. People's next level is different. Some people's next level is retirement. Some people's next level is becoming an entrepreneur. Some people's next level is getting a promotion. Some people's next level is just, finding the confidence that they used to have, but they don't have it anymore. And so I will tell you, as you heard just even a snippet or parts of my story, that you can have that if you so desire and if you invest in the right things to get you to where you want to be. And I'm here to help you do that, to help you identify where you are in that process for realization, acceptance, of your chronic illness or disruptive. I'm here to provide the blueprint to help you become more productive and more confident advocates for yourself, because I had to advocate for myself. I've never had a problem in doing that, but when you are stigmatized with something that makes you feel less than, you become a different you. And
Yeah.
you're like, where did this person come from? I never knew this person existed because I've never had a problem with confidence. But find yourself with something chronic that you have to live with and see, that you do become a different you.
And so as we wrap up, I want to know, like, can you give us a sneak peek into what's happening on Thursday and Friday of your
Yeah.
3-day Facebook series?
I'm excited. So I want you guys to go to LM, L as in lion, M as in Mary, .crenesalon.com. And if you enter in your information, you can download my free ebook called 5 Ways to Deal with Anxiety and Depression Due to Chronic Illness. Um, Anxiety and depression is something that people don't want to talk about either because we hide that really well too. So that is a very important product for me. I spent time on that to put that out, to share my experience. And so for the next 3 days, I'm going to be talking about that, but I'm also going to have two more guests tomorrow. I mentioned earlier that I'm going to have a husband and wife team to come on and talk about just how they interact. And we're going to hit on a really interesting point in a marriage that has to do with sleep and sometimes how couples sleep and potentially how they sleep apart because they can't sleep together, and knowing the difference between actual sleep and intimacy. They are two very different things. So I'm going to have a couple of guests on tomorrow too. So I'm excited about that. I am super excited about that. It is Azaniah Israel and Mishar Israel, and I am so happy and excited to have them with me tomorrow. So please stay tuned and come back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 o'clock Central Time. And we're going to get into really dig into day 2 of this 3-day Facebook Live event on what every woman living with chronic illness must know.
I love that. And everybody, thank you so much for coming. I enjoyed hosting this with Coach Crenée. Of course, you can find her everywhere where it's Coach Crenée or Authentically You Academy. And then you can find me everywhere at Jazz the Pretty Plug. So until next time, thank you all for joining in, and we'll see y'all tomorrow for the second installment for her series.
Thank you, Jazz, the pretty plug. I
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate you. I appreciate all the love, and I appreciate you taking the time to be my guest host. And I know that you won't be on tomorrow, but if you can, tune in. If not,
Absolutely.
you can catch the video. So I'll see everybody tomorrow.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye bye.